Okay, ladies, let's get going. So I'm going to put you all onto mute. That's just so that it records my voice and not yours. So if you have got any questions to ask, sorting out my boxes here, if you use the chat button, and as long as I see the question come up, I will try and answer it there and then for you. But otherwise, it's a matter of once I've finished the demonstration and I've stopped the recording, you know the form by now, that you can ask your specific questions there, and then if you're staying to make and create afterwards, we generally have quite a wide-ranging discussion of all things, not just flower arranging. So let's make a start, and this is our last week of 9 classes. It soon goes by, doesn't it? And you'll see over my shoulder the basket of flowers that I made last week. And I can't show you what we're going to be doing this next week, because of course there isn't a class. We're taking a small break. But thank you to those of you who've already pre-booked your class place for next time round. You have earned your early bird discount for doing that, and you will notice when the listing goes live on my website, the price will be higher. So you are getting ahead of the game, and you are saving a bit of money as well. So I have now scoped out the programme, and I will be sending those of you who've secured your place the handout. I'll probably save that to the end of the month just so it doesn't get lost. And like all things, I've taken the inspiration for our next time's classes. It's a combination of things that maybe you've been messaging me about over the course of the last 9 weeks, or you've emailed me something, or some of you have tagged me on Instagram or Facebook about photographs and pictures of work that has inspired you and asked whether we could think about making that a class. So when I do send out the photographs, the inspiration photographs, they're not my work. A lot of them have been taken from Pinterest and other sources. So just a disclaimer there. And what those pictures show is an inspiration of what we're going to do. We're not going to be slavishly copying. Number one, it's not because I don't think you haven't got the skills to produce the detailed work in the photographs. Actually, some of the designs are more large scale. We go for a bit of a party vibe next time around. It's a party, wedding-ish party time. And some of the arrangements are quite huge. So I don't want you to go off and buy, for instance, the chandelier, the hula hoop chandelier, which must be about this big in the picture, would be absolutely massive. And you'd have to go out and spend so much money on flowers and greenery that when I make my chandelier, I'm actually going to make it. I've got a little hoop. There's probably about 40 centimetres wide. So I'm going to use exactly the same techniques as you would for a large scale hoop, but just scale it down a little bit. It makes it more manageable for me to teach to you, and it's more budget friendly for you as well. And then if you ever decide that you do want to go big because you've got a big family party you're planning for, you're planning to have this hoop in your garden all through the summer months, at least then you've got that confidence that you know your mechanics, you know the technique, and you just need to scale up the project. So just that sort of health warning, really, that I'm not actually going to slavishly reproduce what those pictures I've shown you. They are there to inspire you and to give you the sort of essence of where we're going with the class for next time round. So that being said, shall we get on with today's class? So I have got for today's class 2 bunches of fairgrass. I did have a little play around today, and I thought, could you make this with 1 bunch? I think it's going to be a bit skimpy with 1 bunch, but again, you could scale everything down. So whereas I'm going to build my little spring bulb inspired grass sculpture, and I'm going to build it around a piece of garden cane, if you wanted to make your arrangement with just 1 bunch, because you just wanted to get the idea of it, it may be that you might be using a pencil as your inner strength. You might be using a kebab stick or half a kebab stick. But you'll find that if you do just use 1 bunch of fairgrass, you're going to end up with lots of gaps. But I say, have a go. So if you're thinking, actually, I can get hold of 1 bunch, just have a go, and then you'll see what it's like to work with. And if you're going to make this project again, how many bunches of fairgrass you would actually use. So as well as my scissors here, I have got a little goldfish bowl style vase. because I'm going to put this, what I'm calling a bulb of bear grass, into the goldfish bowl, and this structure is going to, I'm going to say, spiral out of there. It's going to flow out of there, and I'm going to put water in my container when I finished. I just noticed I haven't poured any water here. That's probably a good idea so I don't spill it. So actually, if I decide to put a little floral flourish on my bear grass structure, I can have the flowers actually sitting in water. And of course, it's good for the bear grass to be in water as well, but it's not vital, but your structure will dry out quite quickly. It'll look lovely and lush for a few days, and then it will start to dry out. So I am going to put my structure in water. If you wanted to have just minimal water in there, just to keep your bear grass fresh, but it's not going to be deep enough to keep the flowers alive, what you might want to do is to get one of the plastic test tubes. Your orchids come on with a little lid on the top, and you might want to put water in there, and then you can slide that vial of water into the structure you're going to create, and then have your lovely flowers coming out. I am thinking, though, absolutely minimal flower. And what I have got today, I have got some secret things hiding over my shoulder, but what I have got is some stems of broom, or you might know it as Genesta. This has got a lovely yellow flower on. It's very reminiscent of Forsythia, I think, the colour, and that's, it's the time of year, isn't it, for Forsythia to come out. And I think in the picture I showed you, possibly the flower that had been used was an orchid. So this is my sort of British equivalent of having an orchid. I'm getting a question up there. How long does how long is my stick? This is a bit like the question, and I know I always respond like this. It's sort of, how long is a piece of string is your stick? I will show you. My stick is, again, this measurement I always use is about as long as the gap between my finger and my thumb. I'm guessing, I haven't measured it, I'm guessing that's 15 centimeters long. You don't want to go too tall, and I'll show you the reason why. It's because when you come and fashion your grass around your stick, you want your grasses to taper off at the top, and you don't want to be able to see this structure that's giving you a bit of solidity inside. So don't go too long, but you'll realise when you've gone too long. And what you could do, for instance, I would say the kebab stick is going to be too long. So you might want to work with what you've got, work out how we're going to get the grass to come round, and then you could always go in and cut it down afterwards. You might want to do a dummy run and decide what size stick you use, rather than relying on me having a stick this long and then discovering actually, for the length of grass you've got and the bundle, the size of the bundle, that it's a bit too skimpy. So I have got a piece of garden cane. I've got the option of whether I want to use a kebab stick. I think this kebab stick is going to be a little bit too flimsy. And I did think, before I got my garden cane out of the garden, you can't see though, but in front and behind the camera, is I've got a bundle of pussy willow twigs in a vase, and I thought, actually, rather than me hunting around all weekend for a bit of garden cane, I could just have cut the woody section off, for instance, the pussy willow or any other branch in the garden, and that would have been a lovely structure as well to use. I've also got an elastic band, so your bear grass comes bundled up in an elastic band, but I want to make sure this elastic band is really firm, and of course I want to make sure I'm going to bundle up my two bunches of bear grass into one bundle. So if you have got an elastic band to hand, that would be handy. So this is the kind that the postie drops in the street when they're delivering your flowers. And then as a decorative element, I am using my reel wire. I've chosen silver, so this is the reel wire that is on a cotton reel, and I've gone for a silver one because it's fulfilling two purposes. It's functionally going to be tying, or bundling, perhaps is a better word, bundling all my bear grass together, but equally it's going to have that decorative element as well. So I've chosen something that is functional and decorative. You probably could use anything, even I would say, the mossing wire we've used in previous classes, that sort of gets slightly rusty when the dampness gets to it, and that may be a look that you want. You might want your lovely green bowl with a bit of rusted, more textural wire at the top. But I thought I'd deserve a treat, really. I bought myself something new. So that's what I'm going to use. And then I've also got this. You wonder, what on earth is that? These are tendrils. Again, these are left over from a class I did last week. And what I love about teaching classes is when I teach them in real life, that so many people leave things in the bin afterwards. And I thought, actually, I can use this. And I don't actually know what this is, but it looks very much like Muhlenbeckia. So it's like a little woody, flexible stem that normally has just a few leaves on it. I think the leaves are shriveled slightly, but I thought that might be quite a textural, nice textural interest, sort of have as an adjunct to my very stylized bulb of bear grass. So I may or may not use it. I think I'm probably definitely going to use my stems of broom, and I'm going to see whether I can have those inside the natural water in my goldfish bowl rather than having my test tube of water. And the only reason I say that is I'm just trying to keep things simple, and I don't want to be too fiddly with things, and I don't want to have to keep remembering to top up my test tube of water. So I'm hoping that it's all just going to sit in a really beautiful way in that vase and look super stylish for Easter time. Is it actually going to last until Easter? I don't know, and I suspect probably not, because Easter is quite late this year. I think we're probably still 3 weeks off Easter, so it might not last that long. But again, this is the whole point of coming to class. It's about practicing a technique, and then when you actually want it for a special occasion, you know that you've got over that confidence hurdle. You've done it before, you know the theory of it, you just need to get on and do it. And I'm just going to be making one arrangement, but just look, think how fantastic this would be if you had several of this goldfish bowl vases, or perhaps some bigger, some smaller, and you could make a whole grouping of these very super stylish looking structures. And that also is the trick of successful flower arranging, really, is to repeat things. So instead of just having one of something, grouping something makes it much more dramatic. I've also got on the side as an added extra, and I've got a piece of my very stout floristry wire. I may or may not use that. We'll come to that in a minute. And because I've got really stout wire, I've actually got a pair of wire cutters. Do not worry if you have not got those to hand. They are added extras. And I'm thinking that this wire I chose, I just grabbed it out of my workshop, and I'm thinking it might be too stiff and sturdy. But what we'll do is I will show you the theory of what I was thinking, and we'll just have to see how that works out. So today's class, I'm thinking it's probably going to be best. I don't know if it's probably going to be best if I bring that second camera over. We'll see how we get on. And then right at the end, I'll bring it back to me so you can actually see what I'm going to be making. So, looking at my bear glass here, what we're going to be making is something that is, going to be as high as my head when we've finished. So I will need to come back and show you that. Now, the one thing you might need to do with your bear grass, you can see I've had mine sitting in a vase of water, not only to keep it fresh and alive, but you may find that your own bear grass is a little bit dirty. And I've just put my elbow in a load of water on my table. Now, I haven't properly cleaned this off, but you may want to actually fill a washing up bowl full of warm soapy water and get yourself a scrubbing brush, and just to scrub off the dirt at the bottom of your grass. And that would be a really good thing to do, just so you've got some nice clean materials. Now, sadly, I forgot to do that ahead of class. So it's quite likely that when I put my little structure in my water's going to go ever so slightly muddy. But what I'll do is I'll probably, a bit like when you're preparing leeks and spring onions, I'll probably run it under my finished structure, under the tap, and clean it off. But I would say before you start, it may be advantageous just to clean off the ends of your bear grass. But I still kept them wrapped up. So do not, under any circumstances, take off that elastic band, because you're going to have bear grass absolutely everywhere. And of course, if it comes off, pings off, breaks off, you can always rectify that. It's just going to be a right faff picking up all those bits of bear grass. So I shall get those out, and then we will bring over the overhead camera, and then we can get working. Well, at least I will get demonstrating for you. So just bear with me a moment. Oh no! Jane's telling me she's undone hers. So Jane, I would bundle it up. I'm actually bundle it up, tap it on the tabletop and just ping it all together. But it is much easier to keep under control if you don't unbundle it. And the way to get to those ends, can you see that I'm quite dirty there? To get to those ends is just to slide the elastic band further up, so it's still held in place, but it's not become unmanageable, and you're not playing that old game of 52 stick pickup. So the first thing I'm going to do is to combine my two bundles. So I guess I ought to practice what I preach and push up the elastic band on the second bundle, trying to keep the ends level. And then with my stout, long elastic band, bind them together. So you want to do this nice and securely. How many times have I gone round? So with my two bunches and with a standard elastic band I've picked up in the street, I've gone round 4 times. So again, it depends on how many bundles you've got and how big your elastic band is. Don't go ultra tight though, because we need to be able to feed whatever your structure is going to be, your sort of support pole needs to fit inside there. And if you've gone too many times around the elastic band, you're not going to be able to get your stick in the bottom. So at this stage, now they're bundled together, you can take off the elastic bands. So because I want to save them, I'm going to peel them off. You could cut them off, but of course you can't reuse them if you're going to do that. And then all the time, just sort of tamping down, because I want to make sure everything is as even as possible. And then I'm going to wiggle this stick in. So this, I'm going to create, does it look like a bit like a witch's broomstick to you, with a stick out here and then the broom end here? So I'm going to wiggle this down inside I'm aiming for the center, but it actually ends up in the center, who knows? But I want to make sure that I've put my stick in sufficiently far that it's actually being held in place. So I may now need to push my elastic bands up a bit higher. So it's all a little bit of trial and error just to make sure everything holds in place. I am just going to try and move those just a little bit further up. So hopefully it's holding the bear grass together and the stick in place. So quite often when I'm working, I'm saying to you, give it a little bit of a waggle and just see if it holds in place. I'm slightly nervous about doing this. So a little bit of a waggle, it doesn't have to, don't be too gung-ho with that, because you don't want it all falling apart. And what we're going to do is, having made the little witch's broomstick, we're then going to fan out pieces of bear grass, and they're going to come back up. And this is what, can you see the curve there? That is what is going to create what I've been calling this bulb shape. So it's a spring flowering bulb, and the greenery is going to mimic that sort of curved shape of the bulb. And coming back, Joan, to your question about how long your piece of stick needs to be, it needs to be long enough that you can get a nice shape, but also remembering it's got to be tucked down into the ends of the bear grass. So don't just think about the bit that's sticking out. You need to think about the length that's going to be buried into the bottom of your bear grass. So coming back again, in theory, I should be able to stand this the right way up. You can't see, but I've got a fountain of grass covering up my face, and I need to very gently bring these pieces down and start to gather them around the stick. It's almost like I'm gathering around the little handle. But can you see, as they're starting to gather, that they get a little bit gappy? And this is why I've suggested that you use 2 bunches of bear grass per structure. If you just use the 1 bunch of bear grass, it becomes even more sparse. But it may be that you like that sparse and airy look. If that's what you've got, that is what you'll work with. So I'm going to roll that round. I'm sort of holding this bundle here with my hand and then catching in the next bit. So it's all a bit trial and error. So if I was to walk away at this stage, it's just going to ping back in place. So rolling it around, not quite letting go. And I'm probably taking, I'm not counting, I don't know how many stems are there, there's probably 12 or 15 at a time. I want to keep this manageable, she says, as she, my fingers stuck there. So I'm bending those round and holding them steady. For some reason, that hasn't bent in quite such a nice way. But you'll be able to take a bit more time with this. And because I'm not cutting this bear grass at all, if you decide, actually, it's not quite going the way I want it to go, of course, all you need to do is let go of this hand, it all pings back, and you can start again. And you may find that this is much easier for you. I am slightly constrained by the way I can put my hands because I'm sitting right next to the tripod of my camera. And I'm conscious that if I knock it, the whole picture moves for you a little bit. So I sort of went around the outside edge, gathering in the grass, and then I've got this inner core. So can I show you there? So this bit here looks nice and curved. I haven't quite got the same evenness around the edge there, but hopefully we'll be able to correct that. So again, putting my finger into the levels, just grabbing a few stems, holding them like that, going round again. You'll always get one that seems to ping out or breaks or snaps, but at the moment, you're just going to work with it. Don't start playing with it too much until you've got everything in your hand. So let's go round. I'm just absolutely hoping that I don't accidentally let go of this because it's going to ping absolutely everywhere. I'm conscious, I'm getting round and I can see, I don't know how well you can see, I can still see inside my little nest. It's particularly gappy just there. So perhaps this next lot, I'll try and put over that gap over the top. Bring it back. Try and get it nice and even. I'm left this little bit at the bottom. So probably each time, as I sort of go through, I sort of work concentrically around the edge. I probably took, more stems at the beginning, and now as I'm pulling out the stems, I'm just taking 2 or 3 at a time and bending them back whilst holding them here. So all the time I'm holding them, you can see the stick end here. And that's why I didn't go particularly long with my stick. You could have gone really long, but you'll find that if you want to get a bit of movement or a bit of shape at the top, you'll be stuck and you'll end up with a very sort of stiff chimney to the top of your bulb you're making. And I fancied having something that was slightly more sinuous, but more curved. So there I go. All right, I thought I'd got that right. That one's pinged like that. So if I have to turn that round that way, so having got them all in my hand, it then becomes easier. Can you see that this is going to be the flat base that's going to sit inside your vase? So again, you could be sort of tamping that down to the base, and you could just, a bit more time and attention to detail. I've gone a bit baggy around here, so I could either loosen those off and put them back in. But this is your opportunity to just have a look and see, is that sitting where I want it to sit? It looks at this stage ever so slightly like a pineapple with the frothy fronds at the top. And I was going for something that was more super stylish. I can see here, as I move it around, if I'm being slightly critical of what I'm doing, I've got really good coverage here and you cannot see through to the middle of the structure. But as I bring it round, it's slightly more gappy at the back. You can still see the elastic bands at the top there, which isn't really a look that I like. So I'm going to try and push those down a little bit more, get it more solid feel. If all else fails and I can't get that continuous look all the way around, all I will do is when I put this in a vase, I will just make sure the best side shows. But if you've got more time, you can go through and you need to just have a little bit of a play whilst not letting go of this hand here and getting everything to fix in place. But one thing you might want to think about, if you think your hands aren't going to be capable of holding all this steady, let me just part the waves a bit and look at my elastic bands. They are functional here. They are not massively attractive. And if you decide that you think, I've gone too gappy, I think I will be going too gappy, I don't like the elastic bands showing, you could always bind that over with something more attractive. So if you've got some of your paper cover wire, you might want to bind that round. And it may be that if you're just using one bunch of bear grass, that you actually might want to show off that little bit in the middle. So there's always ways and means around all these little problem areas. So let's see whether it fits inside my bulb. It doesn't fit inside my bulb. So I'll just see if I can squish it down a little bit tighter. I may have to go and find my slightly larger goldfish bowl in due course, but let's see. But perhaps by pushing it all together, that will help me with my, oh, it is going in. It's the pressure of doing it live on the camera. It is going in. And I'm not going to let go just yet, but because I've had to hold it all slightly tighter, I think probably I've got over that problem with my elastic bands. I am very loath at this stage to let go. But what I'm doing again is I've got control over this hand, and I can just see, for instance, that one stem there, that piece of bear grass, I've got everything going in sort of parallel lines, and that one's kind of going the wrong way. I've still got a little bit of a gap. I've now got a bit more control. It's not going to fly away, and I can start to tease out the flower. Dare I let go? Yes, I think I can let go. So at this stage, you can start breathing again. It's under control. So you've got the opportunity there of just going through, making sure it's as evenly placed out as possible. But I do want to tie this off. So looking down in this end here, I can still see my little stick in here. And I'm going to make sure I start tying off. So I'm going to bind all these loose materials at the top here to create a very interesting looking structure. So if you get to this stage and you think, actually, I quite like it with this sort of pineapple look, you're the designer and you stop at that stage. But for me, I want to really go for this very modern look. So I'm going to take my, my decorative wire here and trying to find the end. Oops, a daisy. Difficult doing it one-handed. I'm going to admit defeat, so just cut that little bit off there. So once I've got this tied on, it gives me a little bit more freedom. And I think probably at this stage, I might come back to the front-facing camera, and then I can show you what I want to do, and you can follow along at the full height of what I'm doing. So what I've got here, I'm just doing a little twist to hold, so that when I sort of rest and relax, I can leave everything there and it's not going to fall apart. So that's stage one done. So I'll bring the camera back to me and we can have a look at stage two. So I might move that way around. I'm feeling a load more confident. Now it's stuck in the goldfish bowl. It is holding up. And what I'm going to do is to take my silver wire around the top and bind in all these loose pieces. Now, I could either just see what happens and just go with the flow, or if I want to have slightly more control, I've got the option of elongating that little wooden stick, my garden cane, with another piece of wire, that I could then manipulate. And that's why I've got that extra bit of wire here. It is not, it's not absolutely required. So if I can bury my way down, because my garden cane is, well, you know how a cane's made, it's got these little sort of segments. So I have dropped my piece of wire in, and it's sort of, the garden cane's this long, but it's sort of, the pocket that you get inside is about that big before we move on to the next chamber. So I've got my piece of my wire in the top here, which is about the height of the highest bit of my bear grass. And in due course, in fact, I might do it now. You don't want if you do put your wire in, you don't want it to go right to the top. You want your bear grass to be a natural tip at the end. So I might just cut off a few centimeters off the end. I'll stand up to do that. There we go. And then I'm going to take my silver wire and wrap it round. So having come up to the main camera, this actually might be easier to do lying down on the table. So just be ultra careful when you're doing this. You know, I've got a glass vase on the end of my my grass, and I don't want it hanging off at the end. So you may find it easier to have a, you know, hand towel, a kitchen towel, something like that, just to soften the blow, so to speak. So I'm going to go right the way up to the top. Now, as to whether you decide to leave a little tufty bit at the top is entirely up to you. I'm thinking I do want to sort of bring it all under control. And you'll notice from this first wrapping, I'm just getting the wrapping on there. I don't want it to, because I want it to hold. And I'm then going to go with, I'll probably go up and down 2 or 3 times and doing a denser and denser wrap. And you decide how many times you go up and down. It may be that you just want a light touch with your wire, or you may want to make more of a feature and a detail of it. And if you've got any other materials that you could wrap over, that might add an extra decorative element. So it may be that you've got, I'm using silver real wire, you may have a silver bullion wire, the little crinkly wire, or you may have some wool with a bit of a silver fleck in it. Or you might want to keep it all rustic, and perhaps you've gone up with paper covered wire and then you want to go over with a layer of garden twine or whatever. So it really does, you can really adapt what you are doing. So my piece of wire finishes about there, and I've just got this piece at the end. We'll have to see how far I can go. And as you get to the top, I've probably only got 5 pieces of grass left at the top, and rather conveniently, I've got 1 piece of grass that's just right there on its end. So I'm sort of under control, and it does look like, you know, an onion, a bulb, as if it's about to burst into flower. And then I'm going to, now I've got that deck, it's sort of done the functional job of holding in place. I'm slightly nervous of this rolling off the table. I'm just going to overbind the top, just so it doesn't fall off. So I've just done, you know, 3 or 4 binding points at the same end, at the same place, and it's given me a little solid lump at the end. I'm not entirely sure the camera will pick that up, but I will definitely put a photograph of that layered across the video. And then I can rest easy now, because I'm thinking it's not going to fall apart now. I can go up and down. So, you know, if you're making this later on, you could have the radio on, you could be, you know, half watching a film at the same time. But I am rolling down, and this is starting to create for me a little bit of a zigzag pattern. But I'm just trying to methodically go down and just make it even. So if you've got loads of long gaps and you like that, we'll keep the long gaps. But if you've gone quite close together at the top, you know, try and keep that consistency going. But I'm not being over thoughtful about it. I'm not fretting about it too much. And the only thing is, if you decide to do quite a light touch with your wire, and depending on how wispy your bare grass is, you may discover that it's not keeping your bare grass in place. So you do want enough wire around it that all those little stray bits you might have are actually sort of held in your wire work. So I'm just going to go down one, I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to go down, and then I will tie off. So at this stage, it's all right winding at this end, but as you can move down, you haven't got enough elbow room to go around the end without knocking it. And I'm just here, I've got some shorter bits of grass, which I'm binding in. So you may have to sort of overwrap and have it clonking on the table in front of you. So right down to bottom. I just want to make sure that I am sort of lashing it onto the piece of cone, the cane that was at the bottom. So you can just feel it. Now, as I have wrapped, my wrapping on the way down was slightly tighter than the wrapping on the way up. So my bottom fixings are slightly loose. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm going to reel myself off about 20 centimeters of wire, and then get it nice and secure. And then when I twist tied it to start on, I'm going to finish off at the same place. So I'm twist tying my wires. So that's the end of the wire here and the beginning of the wire. And if I tie them together, it just makes it a little bit neater. And then I've ended up you'll have to imagine it. I've ended up with about 1 centimetre of twisted wire, which is sticking out, and I don't want to brush, hurt myself on that. But what I can do is use my scissors and just bend it down and then tuck it in and hide it in the mass of the bear grass. And then because I've got that little bit of wire in the top, it gives me a little bit of support. So instead of just letting the bear grass go where it wants to go, I have just got a little more control. And then the more I look at this, it looks like leeks, doesn't it, of gone to seed. So it's reminding me of summer days and the allotment. So you can just manipulate that around. But that piece of wire isn't a vital part of it. You will find that as you overbind the top, it gets that solidity anyway. And because you're using wire, that you can bend it a little bit, but you don't bend it, in half. It's about easing rather than bending, because you don't want to be snapping your bear grass. So you could spend ages just putting that where you want it to go, like that. So we created this sort of very organic form. Imagine then that, I'm just thinking I might have smashed my glass vase up. I think it might be a stray bit of bear grass. It looks like a crack. Imagine then I'm pouring in my water. So the cut ends of my bear grass, if you can imagine, they went down the stick and they bent back. So inside my little bulb, the cut ends of my bear grass are quite high up. They're probably, for me, about half to 3/4 of the way up the vase. So if I want my bear grass to stay fresh, I have to make sure those cut ends, the ends of the bear grass, are submerged underwater. So I'd have to put quite a lot of water in. And that is why I'm not going to use the test tubes to put my flowers in, because I will have sufficient water in the bottom of my vase, keeping my bear grass alive. That will also keep my flowers alive. And this must be the easiest bit of flower arranging you've ever done. Recut the stems at an angle. I'm taking off the little buds on the side here. And all I do is to make a little parting in the side of the bear grass. And I could get away and realize that doesn't quite show up. Let's get that against me, it shows up better. But I could just literally put in one stem of broom, because the whole point of this structure is the sinuous construction, really, the statement piece. And I would say you don't want to go over busy with your flowers. So don't confuse a very modern structure by adding in lots of conventional flower arrangement on the side. So you could still use your conventional flowers. I was thinking grape hyacinths might be quite nice. Even a single carnation would be nice, but don't put the single carnation with a rose, with a chrysanthemum, with a whatever. This is all about absolutely minimal flower. So again, put in another one. Remembering I have got water in this, or I will have water in this at the end of class. Just part the ways a little bit and get that to sit down in the water there. See, I think that looked better just with one piece, but I'll be having a little play with that. And then am I going to use the Muhlenbeckia? I'm not entirely sure, but because it's sort of dried out, I had this imagining I could just sort of loop it over. It's on the stem end like that. Maybe I decide that, sure that camera picks it up, it might look a bit too messy, but it's just about creating an absolutely sort of minimal look with your flower, because it's the bear grass and the construction technique that is doing the talking. So I hope you've enjoyed that for today. And before I sign off, I will just say a quick goodbye to those of you who are watching on the recorded videos. I would like to say thank you so much for joining me for these last 9 weeks. It's been so lovely getting to know you and know new people and returners alike. And I particularly enjoy the make and create afterwards, when we get to have a proper chat and catch up with what's going on in your daily lives. So I'm going to end the recording now, and then I'll take myself off speaker view, and then we can go to the floor for questions and answers.